bet. And there seems to be a lot of national turmoil, disturbance, as far as the leadership of Israel is concerned. David is in Hebron. The house of Shaul is in Machanaim on the other side of the Jordan. And there's a house of Shaul, his son, called Ishbosheth. However, Avner, that tries to help set up one formal government on behalf of everyone, he's assassinated or killed by Yoav, and Yoav takes the law into his hand, even though the king thinks otherwise. David is not willing to touch Yoav or any of the children of Tzruya, because they're tough and he is soft. Then we're told that the story is that in spite of this turmoil, you would think that it would take a longer time for the unity of Israel to appear under the leadership of David. We're going to see here in chapter 4, and as a result in chapter 5, that all this turmoil, all things that logically would lead to a greater rift between the two homes, the truth is, it's expediting the bringing of David's kingdom over all of Israel. In other words, it doesn't make sense. The turmoil, the assassinations, which you would think would lead to a longer time of division, is going to bring a faster time that David will take office. This axioma we can prove through this chapter. Here at the beginning of chapter 4, as we learned yesterday, we're told that even Ishbosheth's kingdom is not even named Ishbosheth. When we hear about the death of Avner, he's only called Ben Shaul and not Ishbosheth. Number 2, he's even more weakened. Number 3, V'chol Yisrael nivhalu. Who are they frightened about? There is an opinion that they're frightened about from David. Or there's an opinion that they want to get closer, perhaps, to David. And then we're told, in summary of what we finished yesterday, there are 2 Jews, 2 brothers, one called Ba'ana, the second called Rechav, the children of a father called Rimon, from the area of the Be'eroti. And they're from Shevet Binyamin, without a doubt. In Perek Dalet.
Which person?
The beginning of the chapter. Now, what we did learn, gentlemen, is that apparently they left their city. They left their city when Shaul died, in fear of the Plishtim that were surrounding them. There's a different meaning. Why did they leave their city? Because these 2, we're going to learn in a few psukim, are the assassinators of Ishbosheth.
Oh, they're going to assassinate Ishbosheth?
That's what we're about to learn. Okay? Now, why is this incident being brought here? It's coming to show us that there's really no one left in the tribe of Binyamin to take office in the kingdom. With this Aleph upcoming assassination, and number 2, we learned about all of a sudden in verse 4, the son of Shaul, the son of Yonatan. Okay, and in Pasuk Dalet, let's read it again. V'Yonatan ben Shaul ben, he has a son, but his son is what? Nechei Raglaim. He's handicapped with his feet. What was the story? Ben Chamesh Shanim haya bevo Shmuel Shaul v'Yonatan Yisrael. When the word came that his father and grandmother raising him, she ran out of panic, out of fear. Vayi bechovza lanus, while she's running out of fear, vayipol, he fell out of her hands apparently. Vayi paseach, and what happened to him? He's made handicapped with his feet, and his name is Mephibosheth. Okay, we don't really understand the name, the context of the name Mephibosheth well. But we said in Divrei Yamim, he's called Meiriv Baal. Meiriv Baal. What does it mean, Meiriv Baal? Hashem Meiriv et Ribono. Not so clear exactly, but we could understand that he's a great leader, even though he is handicapped. And you know what? Even though right now we know that the Tanakh is painting a picture, there's no one to take over. Yonatan has a handicapped child. Ishbosheth is about to be assassinated.
Ishbosheth was the last son of Shaul?
Ishbosheth was the son of Shaul. Yonatan was killed. Ishbosheth, I don't know if he's the only one left, but Avner made him, apparently, maybe he's the only one of age to become king. And now, the Tanakh paints a picture. Hope is very bleak right now inside the city of the tribe of Binyamin. And this brings us to the assassination attempt, where we're going to read 2 verses and try to make an understanding what's happening here, but it's very unclear and vague. Let's read. Pasuk. Vayelchu b'nei Rimon habeiroti. Okay, these 2 guys, they're off. Rechavu vana. And where are they going to? Vayavo kechom hayom midday. They arrive el beit Ishbosheth. We've been learning to make sure the coast is clear, that there are no clashes. The kingdom of Binyamin and the 10 tribes on the other side of the Jordan River. So you just can't get to them easily. You have to cross the river. They've arrived to his house. Vushochev at Mishkav Tzorayim. The king is taking a nap. Is that okay? I'm asking you. Is there a problem with that? We don't see a problem with that. Pasuk Vav, verse 6. Veheina. Heina is a weird word. Does it mean hein, them? Huh? It's not a clear pasuk. Boa tochabayit. If we're talking about them, they've arrived to the house, and they're inside the house. They got in. You hear David? They're in. Put your finger on the place to make it easier.
What's their motivation?
Oh, excellent question. Excellent question. Excellent question. We'll get to that. And it says they're inside the king's house. Lokei chitim. All of a sudden, the term lokei chitim. Lokei chitim are
Arrows?
purchasers of wheat.
Oh, right.
Vayakuhu, and they smite him elachomesh. Who are they smiting? Is it the king? Ishbosheth? And Dafka in the belly area, just like Asael was killed, just like Avner was killed. And then it says, V'rechavu vana achiv nimlato. Okay, but what's the connection to the purchases of wheat? Really weird. We'll see one meaning like that. But if that's the case, look at Pasuk Zayin, verse 7. Okay? Vayavo abayit. They came into the house. Vushochev al mitato. What is this, a rerun? He's lying on what? He's lying on his bed. Who is he? The king. But we already learned this, didn't we, in the former Pasuk? Bachadar mishkavo. He's lying on his bed where? In his bedroom. Vayaku, they smite him. Vayimitu, and they kill him. But didn't we know this from the former pasuk? Then it says, "Vayasiru et rosho." They removed his head. Vayaku et rosho. They take his head. Rechaven bana. Vayilchu derech ha'arava. The Arava is the valley area, right? They're in the Jordan Valley area. Vayilchu derech ha'arava kol alayla. What in the world is going on here? We don't understand this pasuk. And therefore, we like to share perhaps 3 understandings. What is the review of this pasuk coming to tell us? So let's go first to Mitzudat David. The Mitzudat David that you have in every Mikrot Gedolah that you open up, he says that psukim Vav and Zayin are written in the format of Klal and Prat. Klal and Prat, meaning the infiltration is in verse 6. And then, what did they do after hitting him? They cut off his head. That's one meaning that's offered by the Mitzudot David. However, it still seems, we still have some questions. Why does it say that they are lokei chitim? There's no addressing this matter. and what could be their stimulation, or you asked their will to take off his head. You know, what's going on in this pasuk? What is this chazara, this review in verse 7?
I have a question.
1 second, I want to relate to it, and then we'll hear all the questions. Therefore, I want you to hear the commentary of the Malbim. The Malbim says, as far as verse 6, the second pasuk, okay? No, the first pasuk rather, that these guys, Rechav and Bana, are experienced killers. They've already killed in the past.
Wait, how does he explain it?
He's explaining that in verse 6, we're being told that they did this type of murder already, and for that reason, we're told in the former psukim, they fled to, they left, which area were they in? In Beiroti, and they fled to Gat. In other words, these two guys, when they were heads of the divisions or battalions of the army, they already were experienced killers or assassinators. Okay? Who did they kill? They killed two people that were sellers, merchants of wheat. In other words, in verse 6, we're told that these guys are experienced assassinators. And now in Pasuk Zayin, okay? In Pasuk Zayin, these two murderers that already did this type of murder earlier.
So it's a murder, it's not like
These, we're going to get, 1 second, okay? These two murderers that already did this type of retzach earlier, okay? They are the ones that are now coming to kill Ishbosheth. 1 second. Let's listen first. And that's what we're told in Pasuk Zayin. In other words, our question was, what is the repetition here? There's no repetition. In verse 6, we're told, as an analysis, they killed people, merchants of Chitim, and we're not told here why they did this murder. But now in Pasuk 7, these murderers, Rachav and Bana, are now infiltrating into the house of who? Ishbosheth, and they kill him. And not only do they kill him, and unfortunately, the situation of Ishbosheth, he's like living in euphoria. If you were king, who would be outside your house? Guards. No guards. He's living there like in euphoria. Everything is batuach. There's no fear that someone might come on the look. You don't have to be stupid. There could be what? Clashes that are continuing between the house of Yehuda and the houses of Ishbosheth.
And Avner was just killed also.
And Avner was just recently killed. So you would think maybe his people are going to do revenge to them, but he doesn't put any shomrim in front of the house. Now, how can you do that? Not only did they enter the house, but they go into his bedroom. And he's unguarded. So that certainly is a security failure totally on his side. A security failure. And could be in the aftermath that Avner was killed. Avner was the major what? Security man for the army of Ishbosheth, as he was for Shaul. And now, you see things falling apart. So that is the second meaning. So we saw the Mitzudot, and we saw the Malbim's explanation. There's a third explanation, and that's the Al-Shech HaKadosh, who was buried in Tzfat. So today's a holy day for the people of Beirut in Tzfat. Let's bring the commentary of the Al-Shech HaKadosh. The Al-Shech HaKadosh asks, how could these two assassinators, with such easiness, just go in, penetrate, and kill Ishbosheth? The answer is, these two sons of Rimon, Rechav and Bana, they did a targil. They surprised people. What did they do? They came into the area and they got dressed up as women, lokei chitim. It says lokei chitim, but it could be purchasers and sellers of chitim. And that's what the word vehena at the beginning of the pasuk refers to, referring to two of them. They got dressed up as women. By the way, this goes very well with the great mission that the Yamam did last week, 7 o'clock in the morning in Shechem. The Yamam, the special unit, got dressed up as women and old fogies.
Are you allowed to?
Shh. And they went into Shechem and they killed, thank God, the murderers of Mrs. Lucy Day and her 2 daughters. May God avenge their death. So thank God those people are no longer alive. So the Al Shech HaKadosh says here in Pasuk 6 that what is Veheina? They got dressed up as 2 women. And they are Lokhe Chitim. And they're sellers of wheat, buyers of wheat. And therefore, they go now in. Now, what did they do? They injured Ishbosheth in Pasuk 6, and then they realize that people are running after them. What do? The Al Shech HaKadosh says they undress their clothing, and now they're dressed up as regular men. And now in Pasuk Zayin, they're making a second entrance into the area, and then they finish off Ishbosheth. So the second Pasuk, according to the Al Shech HaKadosh, is they only injured him the first time. People opened up in hot pursuit of them. They undressed their clothing as women selling chitim. And now they come in Pasuk Zayin as the killers. That's how the Al Shech HaKadosh explains here. And now I'm ready for your question.
I was going to say, are you allowed to dress up as women because it's Pikuach Nefesh?
Of course. Well, now we're going to get to your point, because you asked a more essential question about 10 minutes ago. Why are these 2 people assassinating Ishbosheth? They're going to think what you're thinking. They think Klal Yisrael right now is ready for one kingdom under David HaMelech. For all the tribes, we see that the house of Shaul is getting weaker and weaker after 2 years of ruling. Now Avner is killed. And these 2 people think that for the sake of Klal Yisrael, the sake of making one united kingdom under David, in other words, the kavanot, the real intention of these 2 people are what? We're going to do on behalf of Am Yisrael. What are we going to do? We're going to kill Ishbosheth. Of course, that's a retarded thought. You don't just assassinate a leader. You want to bring more support. Be like Avner was. What did Avner think? I'm going to bring you more support. He speaks to Gedolei Yisrael all over the 10 tribes area. And then he talks to the leaders of Binyamin. That's the way to do it. Avner was a Gadol. He was such a Gadol b'Torah and a Gadol in military craftsmanship that David is lamenting him. And David says, it's a loss for Klal Yisrael. Ken po lifnei b'nei avla nafalta. And everyone is crying. V'cholam ikiru v'yita b'nehem kochol asher asa melech b'nei kolam tov. V'yidu kolam v'chol Yisrael bayom hahu ki lo hayta me'amelech lamit et Avner b'ner. We learn here, kisar v'gadol nafal hayom hazeh. David is terribly affected by the loss of Avner. He's a gadol. So these 2 people read the map politically wrong. They're thinking, what? We're going to kill the opponent of David, so to speak, and we'll bring his head off. When they come in the second time, they cut off his head, and they're gonna go run to Hebron. Here, look what prize we have for you. We have the head of Ishbosheth, and they think David's going to be happy. Wrong. We're beginning to understand more and more the personality, the greatness. David is not looking for power. David is waiting for the right time that the nation supports him. David is Klal Yisraeli. He doesn't want to get more power at the expense of someone else. We saw that all the years he's running away from Shaul. He had the chance to do what? To kill Shaul, but he didn't do it. He doesn't want to gain power at the expense of someone else. Hashem will make a din with Shaul. He's doing Chasidut. So let's continue from the point we are in here. Perek Dalid. We just finished Pasuk Zayin. These two people think they're doing David a favor. Let's continue Pasuk Chet. Perek Dalid, Pasuk Chet. Okay. Vayaviu et Rosh Ishboshet el David Chevron. Vayamru el HaMelech, Hine Rosh Ishboshet ben Shaul, Oyivcha, Asher bikesh et nafshecha. Vayiten Adonai l'Adonai HaMelech nikamot hayom hazeh, Mishaul u'mizaro. Here you see clearly the intentions of these two fighters, leaders of battalions or gedudim of the army of Ishboshet. They think right now that we're paying you back a favor, David, for the sin of what? Of Shaul and the sin of Ishboshet. And we're doing your revenge. We're killing the son of Shaul, the same Shaul that what? Was trying to kill you time after time. And here we brought his head. Imagine. They're so excited to do this. They travel all night from Machanaim. They probably climb up, I don't know, the En-Gedi mountains, and they go to Beit Lechem, to Hebron, and they arrive in Hebron. There must be two sayarot, right? These guys are traveling all night. They're tremendous combat soldiers, huh? Are you in that much shape? Can you do that? Not yet. Okay, we'll give you a few weeks to practice. And what are they saying when they come to, look at the words of faith that they have. Vayitein Hashem l'Adonai HaMelech. Who allowed us to do this? Wow. By the grace of God, we penetrated into Ishboshet's house. And then we penetrated into his bedroom. And we killed him. And there were no defenders there. This is all the hand of God. We did you the favor. We're doing your revenge. Are you happy? And what is David going to say? You guys are dead people. I'm going to kill you. Okay? Look at Pasuk Tet.
I only read the first Pasuk, like what it said, and it sounded positive like that.
That's what you thought. But now we're better understanding. Let's read what David answers. Pasuk Tet. Vayan David. Et reichav et banach b'nei rimon haberutim vayom elem. Chai Adonai. Asher padai nafshi mikol tzara. David takes a shavua first, an oath in God's name. You're not saving my life. You're not saving my kingdom. You know who's saving me all the time? Hashem. And you thought you're bringing me good news? Who remembers David's reaction to the Amaleki boy that brought the head of Shaul to David in Tziklag?
He didn't brought the head. He brought only the.
He brought, I'm sorry, right, he brought the crown and this, and he said, I killed Shaul. You're right, thank you. Yeah. Who saved the head out of the wall of the Beit Shan? Anshe Yavesh Gilad. Anshe Yavesh Gilad did that. And when they brought it to David, what was David's response? You guys think you're bringing me Bisorot Tovot, good news? This is not Bisorot Tovot. Telling me that Shaul died on the top of the Gilboa Mountain? That's terrible. He's such a leader. How did the great courageous soldiers like Shaul and Yonatan fall in a war? You're not Ish Bisorah. You're not giving me Bisorot Tovot. Look at the same type of reply David gives here. Pasuk Yud. Ki amagid li leimor hine meit Shaul voyachi mevaser be'einav vochaza bo vergeu b'tziklag asher litita lo bisorah. He's now referring to what happened not long ago. The guy that came along, he's talking about the Amaleki kid. And he tells me, what? Shaul died and he thought he's telling me Bisorot Tovot? Ma pitom. Do you think I'm going to be more praiseworthy because of the killing of Shaul? I grabbed him and I killed him in Tziklag. And he thought he was making me happy. He thought that he's going to get reward, maybe a job in my army for giving a bisorah. That was my answer to them. Pasuk in Aleph, Af, so too. Ki anashim reshayim hargu et ish tzadik beveito mishkavo. You guys are reshayim, you're wicked people. You killed a tzaddik. Ishboshet is a tzaddik. He's a tzaddik ben tzaddik. His father was also one of the greatest tzaddikim ever. Okay? Mishichmo v'mala, not only was he 6'4", 220, he was Mishichmo v'mala in his attributes, in his tzidkut. You couldn't find anyone across the country. And now you killed an ish tzaddik as well, on his bed, innocent. He couldn't even defend himself. V'ata, Second half of the pasuk. Halo is not H-E-double-L-O. Halo avakeh, surely I'm going to ask et damo mietchem. I'm going to defend the dead Ishbosheth by asking his blood from your hands. You're going to be responsible. Uvi arti etchem min haaretz.
It's like to destroy.
Right. Just like there's a mitzvah of bi'ur chametz, and there's a mitzvah of bi'ur shvi'it, getting rid of the product after the time that we can no longer eat. There's also, this land of Israel is a holy land. And the land, like the Torah says at the end of Bamidbar, does not tolerate bloodshed. The land of Israel is like a neshama. And to do the most immoral acts, like murder, spilling blood, the land does not tolerate. And someone that is violating shvichut damin, we have to wipe away, do away with this. Uvi'arti etchem min haaretz. David knows what the Torah requires, that we're not allowed to defile the land by bloodshed, by killing and murder. So David does not say, oh, thank you very much for killing him. Oh, doesn't say, you shouldn't have done it. He says, you guys are obligated death. To what extent does David do this matter? And this has to be made public knowledge. Pasuk Yudbet, verse 12. Vayitzav David et hane'arim. He has youngsters working for him. Okay, assistants. Okay, Vayargum. To kill them, and he kills them. There's youngsters, they put these two guys to death. And then what does he do? Vayikatzitzu et yedeihem vet ragleihem. I know this doesn't go good with the Geneva Convention. Chops off their fingers, their hands, and their feet. For what purpose? Vayitlu ala brecha bechevron. Apparently this pool area is an area where people come maybe to do laundry, to go to the mikveh maybe. It's a public area in Hebron. The brecha, the pool there. So many people stop over there. And now all of a sudden, what do they see hung on a wire, on a pole? On the line? Not laundry. The hands and feet of these two assassinators.
Where they reunited the Benjamin tribe with.
That was the pool in Giv'on, where they were striving together. That's north of here in Giv'on. Now we're talking about a different brecha, but in Hebron. Gentlemen, just 1 second. So the hands and feet are hung. Public information. This is showing that David has no interest whatsoever to wipe away his rivals. On the contrary, he wants to honor them. When God will present the situation, he'll go. Vet rosh Ishbosheth lakachu. The head was taken. Vayikberu bekever Avner bechevron. So, an interesting thing. The head of Ishbosheth, the body of Avner are buried together. This was the leadership of the tribe of Benjamin. And here we see, as far as the laws of the Malchut are concerned, we see here that David does not tolerate taking the law into your hand and killing his rivals, not whatsoever. David says this is an atrocity, and you people are going to pay for it. They're killed, and now public knowledge. David does not want to gain because of assassinations. And we're going to find out when we learn the next parak that the opposite of human rationale and logic is happening. We're going to think that with all these assassinations, what would happen to David's kingdom? Would it happen faster or happen slower? Slower. But we're going to learn out of Hashem's will, and we'll try to ask ourselves, why is it happening? The beginning of the next parak, Shiftei Yisrael Kam are giving support to David to make him king. So we're going to see that the opposite of human nature is happening. מה השם של כבודו?
לי קוראים יצחק.
יצחק, נעים מאוד, מנחם.
נעים מאוד. I wanted to ask that you have said that David was against bloodshed. So how come he did the bloodshed? And not only did the bloodshed, it was so cruel, such a butchery, yeah.
Yes.
Such a butchery.
Okay.
Maybe
Okay. What do you want to answer?
maybe it's like the only way to show that it wasn't him.
Okay. Let's go along the lines. First of all, as far as Sanhedrin is concerned, we don't have two Eidim and we don't have a warning, Hatra.
Wait,
The killing of Ishbosheth in his own house, there was no one guard. There were no guards there. So there's no...
they're admitting it.
But that's not good enough for dinim. Okay? Hodat Adam Batzmo is not enough. We need two Eidim. Al pi shnayim Eidim yakum davar. It's not
You have
enough.
two. One is also a witness with the other.
No, he
It's saying
can't.
they did it together.
Yeah, they can't. That's an admission. It's not testimony. Testimony is not the person doing the action. The laws of Eidut are very, very fine. However, David is king of Hebron. He has the ability, lehanish shelo kedin. He has the ability to take the law into his hands, and if he sees a breach, a pirza b'chevra, he sees people are taking the law into their hands, assassinating leaders, that cannot be done. So he has the law of the Torah to punish as a king the way he sees right. And now he goes and does what seems to be very cruel, because David now, he wants to make sure everyone understands. It's like similar to what Shaul was making fear to the people before they went out to war. He wants to make sure there's going to be fear because things are getting out of hand. Shaul was killed in the war. Then they thought they're doing a chesed. The Amaleki killed him or finished him off. Now Ishbosheth was killed as well. Avner was killed. People are doing too much murder, assassination. There has to be a stop. So David is trying to do a harta'ah. He's trying to cause fear to the people not to do this. He's hoping he's going to do it. It's not his nature, but things right now are getting out of hand. So therefore he's doing these, what you would think are cruel actions, to show the nation you cannot touch the leader. What was the reason David didn't kill Shaul even though halachically he could have killed him? He doesn't want to touch the anointed of God. And therefore he inhibited himself. We see a clear approach, educational approach of David, trying to discourage people to kill the leaders of Israel. He doesn't kill Shaul. He does punishment to those that do kill Shaul and Ishbosheth. And it's very clear that he wants to prevent further assassinations.
I see that. Okay, and it works. We see that.
Very nice. Kol Shiftei Yisrael are going to come to Hebron and support David. We'll continue this B'ezrat Hashem tomorrow in our shiur.